Hey guys, so today I'm going to be going through my 2020 reading journal and showing you the spreads that I have created, as well as setting up my January reading spreads. I thought I would also do a really quick flip through of my 2019 journal. I'm not going to show you all of it because I do have a lot of reviews in this journal that are quite spoilery, so we'll skip those, but I'll show you what worked for me in this. I am changing my journal a little bit for 2020 to see how it goes, but I'll show you what I use from this. So just to start off, this journal here I picked up just from Officeworks. I think it's an Auto brand journal. I really like this journal, but the pages are really super thin, so that was one thing I did not like about it. So I'll show you what I have and haven't used in this journal. So we have all this stuff at the start here. There's the symbol keys, which I didn't use at all. We have the index that I started using and I stopped doing this in July, so didn't use that. I did put a reading challenge at the start that I've never ever looked back on. We just have something that I did in the original reading journal that I had, and I just stuck some other stuff in there that I drew. And then my original series tracker. So this reading journal I started in December in 2018, and this is kind of how my spreads stayed mostly. So we'll skip forward to 2019. So at the end of 2018 I did a wrap up of my 2018 music, so my favorite songs and my favorite artists, which I will probably do again as well. But then we just have my 2019 reading page, my bookish resolutions, which I spilt water on, which is really annoying, and then the books that I've read page. This I just found online somewhere. I think this place starts at 8, and I just coloured in the books that I read and wrote their name on them. Each colour of the book corresponds to the colour for the book that I used in my journal, which I'll explain a little bit in a minute. And then I have a new series TBR that I started because I just liked the setup of this one a little bit better. And then the next spread is quite messy. This is my book releases for 2019. I kind of threw this in there and then I never used it, and then one day I filled in some of the books that I was interested in. I didn't keep up with this, but I still want to do one for 2020, but it's going to be different to this one because this one I found quite small. As you can see with September, there was a lot of great releases in September, but I didn't have the room to fill it all in. And then I had started doing a movie tracker, which I only seen 3 movies this year. This is not because I didn't use this. This is just the only amount of movies that I watched. So I'm going to do something similar to this in my new journal, but I'll go through that later. And then I do my monthly spreads. So I have a title page. And then there's my January pages read, where I filled in how many pages I read in the month. So I coloured in with a book. So this colour here is the colour that matches these books here, so this light green and so forth. So yeah, I'm sure that makes sense. And then there's my January at a glance. So I have the books that I read, my favorite songs, books that I acquired, and TBR jar pick. I stopped using this because I never ever stuck to it, and this is just a picture that I found online. And then I'm going to cover this up a bit so I can go through the reviews that I did. Like each month I had a wrap-up page where I wrote down book title, the pages in the book, my reading time, the star rating, and the dates read. And then I do a review for each book. So I stick in the book's picture and then I do a bit of reading stats. So I don't know if you can read that very well, but it says my star rating, and I say again the pages read, total reading page, pages per hour, where the author's from. So because I do this twice, I'm changing up how I do it in 2020 because I just didn't, it just doesn't make sense to keep doing it twice. So I kind of just did the same setup each month. It kind of changed to this where I'd have the title page, this page, then my February glance, then my books, my pages read, and the wrap up. And that's how I continued on. I have a few spreads where I wrote down readathons that I didn't end up participating in. Some of the other stuff that I stuck in that I liked was my books I DNF'd. So I just have the book and a reason that I DNF'd it. And then I stuck in the Pop Sugar Challenge, where I've kind of ticked off and written down what book I read for each challenge. Some of the other things I ended up putting in that I liked was I put in a Game of Thrones tracker, which I really liked this. I loved how this turned out. Yeah, so some of the other stuff I did that I liked was 5 books to read. I have this grid sheet. I haven't moved this over to my new journal because I didn't end up ever using it. And then I have a wish list that I never used, so I didn't move that over. And then I have a supernatural tracker, which I really liked this, and I'm up to season 13 now, so I need to colour the rest of this in. I haven't kept up with it, but yeah, I really like this, and I'll probably continue doing this for other seasons in my other journal as well. And the other thing I did was a 2019 reading stats in pixels. I haven't moved this over because I haven't kept up with it either. And this here is kind of what my reviews ended up being, was half a page. So the picture of the book, my star ratings in stickers, a little bit of what I thought, and then some information here. Kind of how we continued on for the rest of the year. So I'm going to skip over my reviews, but as you can see, I ended up doing more reading towards the end of the month, so I have a lot of reviews there I'll skip. I haven't added all my stuff in for December yet, but yeah, it's kind of worked out the same. The problem I had here is that I ran out of pages for the wrap up, so I've had to move the wrap up to here, but that's okay. So that is this journal that I have. I enjoyed this journal, but I just hated how much stuff bled through. So I don't know, do I have something I can show you as an example? So like if you can see here, you can see the Christmas tree through the paper. And on the other side you can see all my colourings out of my books. I just didn't like the bleeding in it, but overall I enjoyed the dot style, so I got a new journal for 2020. So for 2020 I'm going to be using this journal, and this is the Archer and Olive dot journal. This has 160 pages and it has much thicker paper, so no bleeding. So I'll do a bit of a run through of what the spreads I've done so far, and then I'm going to be doing my January spreads. So I have so far done the title page. There's not usually a theme, so if it's colourful and pretty I usually just stick it in, but this is my title page, and then I have my reading goals set up, which I have a video of this going up. It might be up for this one, it might not be, but I'll run through my reading goals more there. I have done my books read at bookshelf. I decided to draw this myself this year, and I am so happy with how it come out. I love it so much, so I'm glad that I decided to do that. The only thing that I would change is because I did 7 shelves, the books are a bit shorter, so they're going to be a lot harder to write in when I start reading books, but that's okay. I love this though. I'm just so happy with how this came out. Next I have my 2020 anticipated book releases. So I just have 6 things on each page, and I'll write the books here. Hopefully this is going to be enough room. It is a little bit bigger than my previous one, but not by much. So hopefully it's going to work for me. It might not, we'll see. And then I have my series TBR, so I haven't filled this in yet, but I'm going to do this similar to my other one where I write down the series and I'll tick off the books as I read them. So I need to figure out what series I would like to prioritize for 2020 and try and finish. Next is my 10 books to read in 2020. So again, I will probably do a video on this, but I also haven't picked out what books I would like to read in 2020 yet, so that's why that's still blank. And then this is the books I DNF'd page, so again I'll do something similar where I'll write down a book and maybe a bit of a reason why I put it down. I'm also going to add a section where I will put whether I unhauled it or not, because one of my big goals this year is to unhaul books that I'm not enjoying, so I will add that in here. And the next one is my to watch spread. So this is going to work similar to my anticipated reads spread, where I will write down the movies on this side and the TV shows on this side that I am excited to watch. So yeah, I am going to be incorporating hopefully a lot more TV and film stuff in my journal this year, so that's why the title page says reading, film and television journal. We'll see how we go with that though. And then we move on to my January spreads. So I've kind of penciled them in, but now I'm just going to draw them in and I'll talk over them as I go. Okay, so this is what I've got going on for my first page in January. As you can tell, this is very different to my previous journal. I've ordered some new stickers too, because I definitely want to put more stickers in here, but I don't have any yet. So what I plan on doing this time around is I'll have fave book, fave film / TV. I'll have a little stats thing down the bottom here, which will cover total pages read, total hours read, which I decided to do while I was making this, and total books read. And then here I will have books acquired and top 5 songs, and I just stuck in a little quote that I wrote out from Harry Potter, which is, happiness can be found in the darkest of times if only one remembers to turn on the light. This is my other January spread. So this is where I will track my pages read. So one of the other changes I made this year is I used to count by tens here, but I have decided to go by 20s this year because at the end of my 2019 journal I was reading more than the number of pages I had allocated. So for example, like here, all of these are like 384, 223, like I was having to write extra stuff in, so I decided to change up my pages read for this year, so it goes up to 240 now rather than 110. So we'll see how it works out. And the other difference is how I'm doing my wrap-ups this year for 2020. So I'm just going to have a list here. I will write the started date, the finish date, and my rating, and I will write more detail when I do each review page. And I'm doing something similar for TV and film, so I'll write the title, the watched, where, and the rating. So my January spreads were very much inspired by a couple of people. So Chloe from Books with Chloe, or more specifically her journaling channel, so Journal with Chloe, and Katrina from The Little Book Owl for this kind of layout. I really liked how she did this, better than how I was doing it in the past, so I'm glad that I stumbled across those videos and made these changes. I'm so happy with how this journal is coming out so far. I'm very excited to start using it. So I haven't got anything else that I can show you for January, but I plan on doing similar to how I did with books in my other journal. So I'll just show you this in here. This is what I intend on continuing doing with my reviews for each book. So I will put in a picture of the book cover, my star rating, and then I'm not sure if I'm going to stick with these stats that I currently have. So the stats that I have in each is my read time, the author, and pages read per hour. I'm not sure if I want to include more stats or less at this point. More likely more, to be honest. And I will also do something similar to this with movies, but I think with movies and TV shows I want those spreads to be a little bit more aesthetic, where I put pictures of my favorite scenes and that sort of stuff. So other things I want to do for each book as well is include like favorite quotes, that sort of stuff. So I will probably change up my journaling for each book and that stuff as well, but I will show you that when I've done it. So that was my 2020 reading journal setup, or reading and film journal setup. I'm very excited for it. I'm so happy with how it's turning out. Let me know in the comments down below if you have a reading journal and what you put in your journal, because I'm always interested in what other people put in their journal and what they like to track. But yeah, that was it. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you all again in my next video. Goodbye!